Happy Saturday. Welcome back. Another episode of Surfing Baseball with Ed Lynch, and I am here with Ed Lynch. Ed, the National League race is shaping up. Mets playing well, 11-3 win last night against the Philadelphia Phillies. What are your thoughts?
Well, that was a huge win, and for the Mets to go into Philadelphia's ballpark in a very crucial series. They have to play them 7 times. Last night was the first of 7 until the end of the season, and I think they set the tone pretty well. I see Lindor came out of the game with some stiffness, but there was already a blowout at that point, so I'm assuming he might have felt a little something, and they just decided to get him out of the game. And I'd be shocked if he did not play today. If he does not play today, that's great concern with the Mets, but I'm sure it's nothing. One thing of concern for the Phillies has got to be Aaron Nola. I mean, he got hit around again last night. It's been an inconsistent go for him. He's an outstanding pitcher. Love his breaking ball, his fastball command. But, he's getting to a point now where he's getting up there at innings pitched. This guy hasn't missed a start, I don't think, all year, and they're getting up into 180 so innings, him and Wheeler. I think the key for the Phillies is Zach Wheeler. I mean, he's going to have to step up if he's a true number one and grab the bull by the horns here and go out and have a big game. So huge win last night for the Mets. The Mets they drive their fans crazy. I remember I went on social media at the end of May and I said, you got to believe the old Tug McGraw saying in the 73 pennant race. And I took some crap for that, Said, no, I can't believe it's over. They were 11 games under on May 29th, and now look at them. They're 17 over, I believe, 15 over. So, I mean, it's been quite a turnaround. And the game of baseball in the big leagues has become incredibly up and down. This year is only the 3rd time in the history of Major League Baseball, 155 years, were 2 teams, the Astros and the Mets, at one point were 11 under, and then we're 11 over in the same season. So it ain't over till it's over, and the Mets are certainly a team that has generated a lot of up and down emotions. But they've got some veterans on that club. They lost McNeil, I saw, but I don't think that's as big a blow as people want to make it out to be. I think Iglesias' performance. Alonso is having another Alonso year. Nemo has done a good job. So I think the Mets have a chance to make some noise and get to the postseason.
And Ed, can you talk a little bit too about the Dodgers and kind of where they stand right now?
Yeah, they're an enigma. You got to give them credit where credit is due. I think they have the best record in the league, but they do that every year. They seem to just roll into the playoffs. They clinch early. Then they come out in the postseason flat. And what wins championships, as we've talked about, is pitching, and especially bullpen. But, it's hard to slug your way to the postseason, and it's almost impossible. And I'm going to say it is impossible to slug your way to a World Series championship. You've got to get the other team out. The Dodgers lineup, of course, with, those 3 or 4 guys at the top of the lineup is devastating, especially at home. But, they've got a series of injuries with their starting pitchers, Tyler Glasnow, Gavin Stone, Tony Gonsolin, Kershaw, Dustin May, who had season-ending surgery. Glasnow's the guy that he's like the Zach Wheeler now. I mean, it's going to be tough for him to come back and produce in the regular season. I see he had a scan yesterday, and the outcome was promising. I have no idea what that means. But one thing you have to realize, when you're a pitcher in the major leagues, after a while, you have to learn the difference between pain and injury. And this time of year, not a lot of guys are going to go out there and feel real good the first few warm-up pitches they throw in that bullpen when they're starting a game. And the key is to go out there, know the difference between pain and injury, and go out there and compete. And I think it's time, if he is healthy, he has to man up. He has to get out there, take the ball, and compete. And in the postseason, because they're gonna be in the postseason, they're more likely going to win the division. But that first round is going to be very important, and to have Tyler Glasnow out there on the mound ready to pitch is going to mean a lot to them. So I think the Dodgers are at a crossroads here. They're going to score runs, but their pitching is going to be, their starting pitching is an issue. Ironically, the two best teams in the National League, I was talking to Bob Nightingale about this last night, neither one of them is in first place. And they're both in the same division, and they're behind the Dodgers. It's the D-backs and the Padres. And the reason I say that, it's you know, their bullpens are strong. The Diamondbacks, they can score some runs. I'll tell you what, they're leading all of Major League Baseball in runs scored. And San Diego's bullpen is really, really good. Now, the D-backs starting rotation, I thought at the start of the year with the 5 guys they had 1 through 5 were as good as anybody, but then they started falling off and getting hurt. And, you know, Merrill Kelly the other night had to come out of the game. So the starting pitching for the D-backs is one of their strengths. The only problem for me on the D-backs is if they go into, say, San Diego with a 1-run lead in the 9th inning in a deciding game, they're going to have problems. Martinez got outstanding ability, but he's young, and closing is a learned skill. There's more to it than just throwing 100 miles an hour with a plus split. You've got to have impeccable command. You've got to know when to attack, when to divert, meaning, you know, you got to go after the guys that you got to get out. You don't want certain guys to hurt you. You know, don't let, you know, if you're pitching against the Dodgers, don't let Ohtani beat you, you know. Don't let Manny Machado beat you. Let him be the guy that beats you in a game. Make somebody else do it who's probably less able to do it. So that's my concern with the D-backs. But, boy, they can score some runs. And again, I'll go back to San Diego's bullpen. To me, they have the best bullpen in baseball. So they're playing a 5-inning game. If they're ahead after 5 innings, you're probably going to lose the game. So National League is shaping up, but you have to give the Phillies. The Phillies have the best record, I believe, in the league. You know, they're 5th in runs scored, 3rd in the NL, 3rd in the National League in runs scored, and 4th in the NL in ERA. So it's not, what's already happened is not relevant. It's what's going to happen is what's relevant. And if Aaron Nola can't kick it in, and if Zach Wheeler struggles, you know, they're going to have their problems. You know, look what happened to them last year. There's this cloud hanging over them. And Philly's a tough place to play. I'll tell you what. Those fans are rough, and they're demanding. They're smart, and they're good fans, and they demand excellence every night. So, you know, the pressure is mounting in Philadelphia. So we'll see if they're up to it.
And Ed, kind of as the season's wrapping up, I've noticed as I've watched games, just a lot of fundamental mistakes that are happening. Can you kind of talk a little bit about what you're seeing with outfielders and with base runners?
Yeah, well, that's something that's been happening here in our game for about 10, 15 years. You know, we've raised a generation of showcase players. You know, it's the typical high school player. He plays on his high school team. His season is over, and now he goes on the showcase circuit. He's either at perfect game tournaments or let me put it this way: if you're in the Aflac game, say at Wrigley Field, which used to be a national high school all-star game, and there's a man on second with nobody out, and it's a tie game in the 8th inning, the last thing on that kid's mind is to move that runner over into scoring position. He's there to showcase his skills, and that's why they call them showcases. So he's trying to hit a ball out on Waveland Avenue. He doesn't really care about, you know, playing situational baseball. I don't blame the players at all. And the degree of overcoaching is just unbelievable. I mean, you go out to a Little League game and they got 3 coaches out there in high school and certainly in NCAA baseball. And you see it in the big leagues, everybody's pulling cards out of their pocket, you know, and the pitcher's out there, he's got a microphone, someone's telling him what to throw. And base running is as Greg Maddux said, they said he had great instincts, and he said, no, I don't have great instincts. I make a mental mistake. The coach says, don't do it again, and I don't do it again. So nobody's born learning. Nobody's born knowing how to run the bases. It's paying attention, anticipating. If this happens, I'm going to do this. If that happens, I'm going to do that. That's a big part of it. But I see a lot of base running mistakes. And outfield, you know, it's, again, you can coach these guys up all you want, but when a center fielder is trying to throw out the fastest guy in the league at home plate on a base hit to center field, when that guy's on second base, and he throws a rainbow into the plate where the guy's easily going to be safe and everybody knows it. And the guy that hit the ball strolls into second base and now he's in scoring position. You know, these are all cliches, and they're all cliches for a reason, because they're true. And, you know, don't make the first or third out at third base. You know, don't let runners advance on unnecessary throws. So I think it's a byproduct of overcoaching and showcase baseball when these kids are growing up.
And switching gears here, Ed, Jerry Reinsdorf came out with a statement. The White Sox, we know it's been an awful season this year. Can you kind of talk about that? And real quick, I do want to read part of his statement. I've got kind of a two-part question. He said in that statement, "What has impressed me is how our players and staff have continued to work and bring a professional attitude to the ballpark each day, despite a historically difficult season." Then he goes on to say, "I expect to have more to say at the end of the season." So 2 parts. What are your thoughts on that part of the statement where he talked about the professionalism of the players and staff? And then what could he possibly be alluding to with he'll have more to say at the end of the season?
Well, I could say from experience, I've been around Jerry for the last 35 years, I guess. And he's a quality human being. And you can ask anybody in baseball. He is one of the best owners to work for. He very rarely makes changes. You know, letting go Kenny Williams and the general manager last year was a major step. It was totally out of character for Jerry. He felt like he had to do it. And I feel his pain. I mean, I went through something similar, but certainly not to this degree. I mean, we started, I think, 0-16 in 1997 in Chicago. And it was tough. And you go to the ballpark every day and you got to put on a face, and you're trying to protect the organization the best way you can. And it's been an awful year. I mean, it's been a historically awful year. And, you know, I thought his statement was heartfelt. I thought it was appropriate. And I think the world of Jerry. Now, when he says I'll have more to say at the end of the year, I'm sure he's going to talk about, you know, the type of manager they're going to be looking for, what his plans are on payroll for 2025, what he thinks needs to be addressed, things of that nature. You know, the nuts and bolts of it's going to have to be handled by Chris Getz, the general manager. But Jerry will provide a vision for 2025, I'm sure, after the season. And, you know, he'll put out a roadmap, and it's up to those guys in the front office to get them along that roadmap to get to their goals. So I also want to say a little something about Steve Stone. You know, Steve Stone was, in my opinion, one of the greatest broadcasters in the history of baseball. An outstanding major league pitcher. I was with him in Chicago for a lot of years. And he also came out with a statement saying, you know, he thanks the fans for their loyalty. And, you know, the White Sox have great fans, you know, and just because very few show up now doesn't mean they don't still love their team. But, you know, I thought that statement by Steve was very appropriate too. And these are 2 quality human beings. And I just hate to see them have any kind of negative comments made about them.
Ed, it's been great. Thank you again for your time. Surfing Baseball with Ed Lynch. Follow us on social media, X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Ed, as usual, we'll do this again in a few days. Surfing Baseball with Ed Lynch.
Thanks, Tyler.